Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Getting Hammered. I am Mary Katharine Ham. I'm here with my co-host Vic Mattis of the Washington Free Beacon. We are moderately right and moderately reliable. We are over-caffeinated and underprepared for sure. And we're your morning show for any hour, even if it's only quarterly. How are you doing, Vic?
Hello, Mary Katharine. It's so nice to see you and hear you. In fact, people might think, much like Simon and Garfunkel, when you're not listening to them, you assume that they're always hanging out together. No, and in fact, we just, we have our own lives, we have our own families, we have our own work and everything. But it is very nice that we can reconnect here. And
doing a podcast is very much like it's like an appointment for your friendship, where it's like, oh, we have to put this on the calendar, and then if we don't have that, we gotta do something else because we're not fitting it in.
No, that's right. And in fact, but like many great friendships, it can be a long stretch of time, even months. Yes. And once we pick up, it's like we just never left off. And speaking of which, I would like to talk to you about the only story anybody's talking about right now, and that is last night's Coldplay concert. So,
okay. you guys are gonna get our dated takes.
Can you believe what were they thinking? Who were they? Okay, I will say this.
Who was that couple?
Yes, I'm kidding, but I as I spoke to you before we went on air, I would like to do a lightning round of all the things that we missed. So we'll get to that later. If our listeners can indulge me, you're on the air more than I'm not. I'm on the air once on the Great Hugh Hewitt show. I will just say personally, I am fine. I am older now. When I go to the supermarket on Thursdays, I can't remember if I mentioned this to you last time. The woman who works there, she'll actually say, "Hold on, let me scan in your senior discount." And you know what? It all adds up 10 cents. It's like 10 cents here, 10 cents there. So I'll do that. I've come to accept that. The rest of the summer, end of summer was great. We had a very, very brief trip to the beach. I went to a place called Tommy's Hot Dogs. You can look it up. I just want to say, I know there are some people who are very anti-hot dog. They think it's gross. It's weird. They're suspicious about the meat. Not me. I love them all. And
I mean, no one's surprised by that.
No, I think that was not exactly the biggest revelation of this show. It's true.
I too am not picky about
Do you like hot dogs?
I would not. They're not like top of my list, but in the correct environment, yes, I enjoy that.
Yeah, I enjoy the ones that are like steamed, like the ones that you get on a hot dog stand. They take them out of the hot water.
I used to get between classes at the University of Georgia. There used to be a guy with a hot dog stand who would be in the middle of campus. And after like an English or history class, I would occasionally go down to the hot dog stand and get a hot dog.
I bet it was great.
And a Mountain Dew.
Oh my gosh. You know what? That was living. That'll be my last meal before I die of diabetes.
Yeah, that's being 21 and a half is what that is. Yeah.
What do you like on it?
Mustard and chili is my preferred.
Oh, that's a recipe for something. I like sauerkraut and brown mustard.
Sauerkraut.
I love sauerkraut and brown mustard. Mm-hmm. So this place has like over 100 varieties. The problem was I only went there once, so I still have like 50 more.
Yeah, you got to work on it.
So other than that, I will say that the podcast sabbatical for me, for this show, I should say, has been great. I've been able to really polish the Weekend Beacon review section, getting a lot of great reviewers I'm excited about. And the other flip side is I don't keep up with all the news as much as I used to. Is that a bad thing?
I'm not sure it is a bad thing. It's a bad thing for our listeners, because they want us to be...
Right. What was my take on the Fed rate cut? Yeah.
But for your mental health, it's probably okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And even listening with, to other podcasts, I now oftentimes on the drive home, I'll call my dad, maybe listen to some music or something. Okay. That's enough about me. We got so much to talk about. Mary Katharine, how are your kids? I assume they're in college by now.
Yes. Everyone's good. The big girls are back to school.
Yeah.
I mourn the end of summer, which actually technically isn't
Same.
for another 3 days. I like to hang on to summer until late September. But nonetheless, the kids are back in school. I call this season of my life the form signing season.
Oh, that's horrible.
It is so terrible. There are 2 seasons for this, right before they go back to school and then another one in like February, March when you're signing them up for summer camp.
Oh yeah.
Where it's like medical forms, it's the forms for the organization, it's duplicate, triplicate. There's one organization that each kid needs 2 copies of each form, and they have to come from the pediatrician, which by the way, we now have to pay for. I like that it's online, but you got to pay like $20 and then they send you the thing. So as you might imagine, that's not my strong suit, but we've gotten through it. The children are, as far as I know, registered properly for school, or at least they're letting them attend. So
yeah, the health stuff is a real pain.
It is.
You need a plan. They need the plan.
God. And then, and every year they're like, oh, we need a new one, you know? And the doctors are like, every year we got to check on them. Do we? Okay.
Have you gotten to the point of signing where you're just now like various permission slips? You don't even look anywhere. You're just signing.
I basically don't look. Yeah. And I just, I hope my husband writes down the date of the field trip and we'll figure it out later.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's going on. I took the 2.5-year-old in for whatever his checkup was, and they were like, you've missed 3 well checks. I was like, well, he's number 4. So like, what were the chances I was going to get him in? He is, though, for his age at this checkup, 99th percentile for height.
He's ready for the NFL. I think at this point.
He's the biggest 2.5-year-old. Yeah. He is gigantic. But this made him a great bargain at a theme park this summer, because when you take a 2.5-year-old who's 39 or 40 inches tall to a theme park, he can ride the roller coaster.
Oh my gosh.
So we took the little kids on their first roller coaster, which was medium. It was not, but it was like medium aggressive. It was more than I thought it was going to be.
Your youngest.
Yeah, we took both of them. So Steve had the 4-year-old girl and I had the 2.5-year-old boy, and the big girls were on their own. And the girl, I could hear her behind me telling Steve, I want to go home.
Oh, yes. The fear.
I want to go home.
Yes, of course.
And then the little boy was sitting next to me, and you could just see like the G-forces on him. And I was like holding his little hand. The G-forces are on him, and he doesn't know what to do about it. And he's making a face of like moderate dismay, but he hasn't lost control of his emotions. He's not upset per se.
Also,
go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I could see him like saying, I commend myself to you, Lord, and I pray that this crazy woman who is my mother has not put me in a bad position. Because he was like, I'm just going to trust you, Mom.
Was this his first roller coaster then?
Yes.
Okay, so he didn't know what he was getting into, did he?
No.
Because at that age, you're just going along. They trust you. They trust you like that you're not insane.
Right. All of life is like that once they come out of the womb. They just have to be like, I'm on this ride and I hope you're semi-competent. And I'm like, yeah, I'm semi-competent, moderately competent, as we might say. But they did well. They enjoyed
what
themselves.
What did they think afterwards? Now, especially if you're scared, it's like a feeling that, oh, I have conquered this fear. Yes. How did she feel about it?
She was not a huge fan.
Even after?
I do think part of her problem was that other people were screaming. So she was afraid they were in distress. And we maybe should have explained that before we got on.
That's a good point.
He's like grabbing the handle. And at the end, I go, what'd you think, buddy? And he goes, good.
Well, it reminds me when we took our kids to Disney World the first time, my son was 5.
Yeah.
And I took him I said, we're going to go to Thunder Mountain Railroad, which is, kind of a semi-serious, fun roller coaster for kids. Yeah. And he said, yeah, let's do it. As we were getting closer, he started to really drag his feet. Like he didn't really want to, and saying, I don't know. And maybe not. And I forced him.
Yeah.
I said, no, we're going, it's too late. We got to go. As if there was some sort of plan where you couldn't violate it and like choose, I'm not doing this.
I do think sometimes you do have to force them. So my oldest,
I was confident enough to know that he would like it.
My oldest is not a roller coaster person. My second is very much a roller coaster person.
Yeah, there's different types.
And I'm a roller coaster person. So she and I are happy to do all of them together all day long.
Yeah.
My oldest is not, but I did on one of our previous trips to a theme park say like, you need to try it. You need to try it. And I took her on a pretty aggressive one.
Okay.
And to her credit, she did it. Although she grabbed me in the middle of it and was like, I'm having a panic attack. And I said, okay, I appreciate you trying it. This isn't your thing. It doesn't have to be your thing. And now you are released.
Yeah.
Like
For some people,
okay.
for some people, they get a real thrill from this sort of thing. And other people, it's called anxiety.
Yes.
So it doesn't, but I'll tell you, my son loved, after that, he loved Thunder Mountain and then wanted to go again and again.
Love it.
Right. So that, I mean, that's sort of that's what you hope for. My daughter is insane. She and her cousin are big fans of all the roller coasters at Six Flags.
Nice.
And they even went on one that was so bad called El Toro that it's no longer operating. Like there was a story in the news about people having like back problems and whiplash, and they survived. She got sick, but anyway. Yeah.
There are two that have actually scared me in the past.
Let's hear it.
One was the Intimidator at King's Dominion, which is the Dale Earnhardt one.
It sounds so intimidating.
Yeah. And it has so much G-force that like at one point you can feel yourself passing out. Like you can see it, you start the tunnel vision and it brings you out of it just in time before you.
Yeah, like a fighter pilot.
Yes. And I actually was like looking up like what do fighter pilots do so that I don't have that feeling again. So that one was pretty scary.
So breathing exercises.
The other one is the Eagle one. I forget what it's called, like Free Eagle or something at Dollywood, which is so high.
Yeah.
And you're standing, it's the standing up kind.
Yeah.
And so like put you parallel, they put you horizontal and you fly across it. That one is the only roller coaster I've ever been on that as we were climbing that thing, I went, I shouldn't have done this. I shouldn't have committed to this.
Yeah, and then now you're locked in.
Hey, there's nothing you can do, but I made it.
And you
made it through.
I'm looking at you. You're fine. I would say one roller coaster for me, and that was many years ago in the late 1980s, I think it was, and it was Magic Mountain, which was at whatever the big theme park is near Los Angeles. Why is it escaping me right now? But it was called Magic
Knott's
Mountain.
Berry Farm?
No, it's not Knott's Berry. That's more for that. Come on,
that's the kids, right?
That's a bigger one.
I don't know. I don't live in California.
It was. I know. Neither do I. My uncle did at the time, and it's one of those wooden roller coasters, and it just when it goes down, it's so steep that there's no tightening. You can't tighten your stomach or anything to brace for it. It's just everything is going up. So anyway.
All right. So that's that.
Good for you.
I'm trying to think if they've destroyed anything since we last talked. I'm sure they have.
Oh yeah.
We've removed yet more things from that room, and I believe, I don't know if I mentioned it on the podcast, but their bunk bed is sort of stylized like a little playhouse.
Yes.
And it has a window in the bottom bunk, and around the window is a little superficial casing. And they ripped one part of the casing off with their bare hands, and it's just sitting on the pantry or the linen closet shelf waiting to be, I don't know, nailed back on so they can do it again.
Yeah, I was gonna say just leave it off at this point.
They've lately become into Winnie the Pooh, and I was at Goodwill the other day and saw a $5 Winnie the Pooh lamp, and I thought, oh my gosh, the babies would love this. And then I thought, love throwing it up against the wall.
Love chucking it.
Yeah. So I decided against that. I might change my mind. I mean, $5 is not so much to lose as long as it doesn't concuss one of them. I think we're okay. But there's always a possibility.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah. So anyway, the room survives. Oh, I lofted both of my other kids' beds, so they have a big girl room now, like a dorm room.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's their transition.
That's exciting.
Because they're getting older. They need a little personal space. So now they've got lofted beds and like a little desk area.
Like, okay, so let me ask you. So it's not bunk beds. You're talking about a loft in a room where one has to go up to another half level, but has like the slant of the roof. So like it's like a lower thing for them, or no? But they're small enough that they could still.
Yeah. They're up. So their bunks are up high, and just underneath there's no bottom bunk. There's like a college dorm room. There's
I see. Yeah.
There's a desk.
Oh,
and
of
dresser
course. That's
area.
very college dormy. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
So they're liking that, shouting at each other across the room instead of in the bunk beds. But yeah, they're enjoying their little personal space. So I did that for them. All right. I guess we must get to the news at some point.
Man.
There's so much of it.
Do it.
And sadly, it is not an easy week to talk about the news. The biggest story, obviously, is that about a week ago, friend and colleague Charlie Kirk a pundit and debater who went all around the country debating on college campuses, podcaster, radio host, guy I've known since he was 19 years old, was murdered in cold blood on a college campus for debating on a college campus.
Yeah.
And, I'm sure you guys haven't missed this news. It has been hard to process. I didn't know Charlie well. I had worked with him in the past at Turning Point events. He had me talk specifically at times to the young women gathering of Turning Point, notably in very Charlie fashion, even if we disagreed on Trump or disagreed on issues. And I always had uniformly nice experiences with him. He was mature beyond his years. He was kind and genuine. And since his death, I have to say, kind of like probably some of the centrists or liberals who are encountering his debate videos for the first time, I was not the demo for those, right?
Yeah.
Like, so that I wasn't
Obviously,
getting fed all of his debates. And I want to confess, I feel like I sort of unfairly in my head categorized him as so-and-so destroys so-and-so viral video guy, which to be fair is how those things are characterized online. Right. And I clicked through and I'm like, no, this is so much richer than that. What he was doing was so much richer than that. Yeah. And he was a good debater, which I knew, but he was a generous debater.
Yeah.
There's one clip in particular where there's a young man who's arguing institutional racism with him, and he's very nervous. And Charlie says, hey, take a breath. Hold on. I'm not trying to pick on you. It's very hard to get up in front of thousands of people and make this argument to me. Mm-hmm. What I'm going to do is give you a second to collect. I'm going to restate your argument. You correct me if I'm wrong, and then I'll tell you why I disagree with it, and we'll go back and forth. Yeah. And that's a moment where Charlie could have destroyed so-and-so, could have stomped on this guy who wasn't really super prepared to do this. And he didn't, because he was actually trying to have a debate. And I think I didn't appreciate that enough while he was here. And in fact, I think occasionally probably dunked on him on Twitter or said,
oh, sure. Though he had a good sense of humor too, though. I mean, if we teased him about stuff. I was going to say that feeling of the young debater going up against Charlie Kirk. That's how I feel when I'm with you, by the way. I just have to collect myself and take a deep breath.
It's very hard to get on the mic, Vic.
It is. I know.
I have a lot of experience.
You are formidable. I will say I did not know him personally because he is also, as you mentioned, that's not my scene. I was in the office. This is a week and a day ago, and the newsroom is generally quiet and the volume is either low or it's down. Everybody's working on a story or something here at the Beacon. Yeah. And on occasion, though, if something is urgent or something is big happening, suddenly I'll hear the volume turned up. And this time I remember my door is sort of ajar and it was cranked up loud. Yeah. And I kept on just focusing on my work and thinking, what is going on out there with these people? You know what I mean? And what could it possibly be? And then I turn and then they're like, this is just coming in, these developments in Utah. And I thought, well, Trump is not, I don't think in Utah or Vance. And then all of a sudden you heard, and it almost didn't make sense of why would somebody want to do this to somebody like him? I mean, again, people would find him infuriating, if they don't agree with him. They can't beat him at debate, but to do something like that, I mean, and in front of this massive audience and everybody has their phones out and everybody's recording things, it was unspeakable. Yeah. So I'll tell you, he has a very specific, I think, audience that he's trying to reach out to, which is good. My daughter did not know about him at all. My son came home. That's all they were talking about. Yeah. Like they all knew who he was because they were all sort of, listening and tuning into him.
Yeah, I think that young people are probably suffering in a way, many of them, he had millions of followers, are suffering in a way that many in media bubbles will not understand because it doesn't occur to them that someone like Charlie could connect with young people. And I saw a poll out today that showed, it was sort of tweeted as to like undermine Charlie's mission by saying, he was very well known on campuses, but ultimately unpopular, saying 70% of students surveyed disagreed with him. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, so you're telling me he was winning 30% of hearts and minds on a college campus?
Yeah.
Because that sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah.
And I think he was speaking to those. And I think it's so, again, I wish I'd appreciated it more while he was here, that the part of his job that he did on college campuses is exactly what I love to do on college campuses, which makes this even more jarring.
Yeah.
And have enjoyed doing my entire career because I grew up with all liberals. It's not weird for me to be in a room where no one agrees with me. I worked at CNN for 7 years. I know how to do that. I enjoy doing it. There's something very powerful about making your arguments clearly and kindly, and having people in the room either go, I wanted to hate her and I don't really, and I'm confused by that, which I think is how a lot of people felt about Charlie when they actually encountered him. Or, and the left is going to hate my use of this word, giving marginalized populations on campus, ideologically marginalized populations on campus.
Can't believe that's a thing.
Yeah. The chance to see someone express what they believe, give them a path for how to be activists or a path for how to be bolder in expressing themselves. That's really powerful. And you can see the joy on Charlie's face when he's doing that. And you can see it in the number of young professionals, including Carolyn Levitt and Representative Luna, who both spoke at his memorial here, saying, like, I'm here because Charlie Kirk recognized me as somebody who would be talented and elevated me and helped me. So I very much appreciate what he was doing. I know many people have said that they would take up the mic, and I'm nothing, but I am happy to do that work as well, because it becomes more important that you do that work after someone has been killed for doing that work. Yeah. I think that those exchanges he was having are what college was supposed to be, and at one point was, and really isn't anymore.
I was explaining this to my kids, when they have their club fair days or whatever they have it for the different clubs and schools. And I said, I remember that. I said, we would have our table at the college Republicans, and down a ways was the college Democrats, and it was a lot of, friendly jiving back and forth. And we would still hang out together. Sometimes we would have parties together. You know what I mean? And the thought of it now, everybody's so polarized that they can't be together. That was one thought I had. And the other thing is, for his many, many fans, they remind themselves, obviously, they've been showing that, what he would want them to do is to continue to engage rather than violence. They're not going to have a riot and burn down a city, because of this thing, because they have taken, down the person who is so beloved in among them, but to continue to engage. And I think there are certain segments on the other side who must find that so frustrating and infuriating, because they want to be able to say, you see both sides. You see, it's not just the left. It's the right does terrible things too. And this is not to say that nobody on the right, does terrible things, obviously. But when you look at it right now, they wanted so badly, and we can get into this whole other thing. Yeah,
the good, the bad, and the ugly of the responses. Yes,
and the ugly. They wanted so badly for this to be some sort of MAGA conspiracy. This reason for, to give Trump the green light to, I don't know, go after his enemies, impose martial law, whatever. They wanted so badly to think it was some sort of a Nick Fuentes assassin or some sort of nefarious organization, because he was such a good shot. And the idea that it was this lone gunman who was driven by, who lived with a person transitioning from a man to a woman. That's an uncomfortable truth for a lot of these people. And obviously a lot of them are just going to choose to ignore it for some reason, and to still try to focus on guns as if we need to ban the 30-06 hunting rifle.
I know.
And a lot of them, before we knew anything, they jumped out. You think about the law professor Lawrence Tribe, or the Democratic congressman from California, Dave Min, and Randy Weingarten, they had it all figured out, everybody. His parents, we can confirm, are Republican. Therefore, he must be. Because no child has ever not had the same political opinions as their parents.
Now, so the shooter is in custody and has confessed. He is in custody alive, largely because his own father recognized him and the gun, I believe, in released photos, and made sure that he turned himself in peacefully. And it's quite clear from his family's testimony and his living situation with his significant other and his own texts, which were presented at a press conference by law enforcement, that he was a person who had been raised in a conservative household, turned quite recently pretty liberal. Likely spent a lot of time online, gaming and in Discord chat groups and such, and became convinced that Charlie Kirk was a symbol of hate. And that is the message he sent his significant other about why he did this, was that this guy's hateful, and some kinds of hate you can't negotiate out of. And that's pretty clearly ideologically informed. There was an Occam's razor here to begin with, which the left did not observe, nor did they hold off on going the other direction. And I do think there was a cultural shift around the Gabby Giffords shooting, where when they pinned that on Sarah Palin's campaign poster or whatever it was, when in fact it was, look, there are assassinations of political figures that aren't political, right? Hinckley was not a Dem looking to take down a Republican president. Jared Loeffner was not looking to take out Gabby Giffords for political reasons. He was a schizophrenic who had all sorts of strange delusions about her. The murders, the terrible murders in Minnesota of the state lawmakers, Melissa Hortman and her husband and her dog, those were also not politically motivated. It was a person who lost it and thought Tim Walz was telling him to kill state legislators, right? So there are situations where these things aren't politically motivated. This guy pretty clearly was lucid and politically motivated. I'm really quite sick, and have been for quite some time, of the left either ignoring when it's their own violence, or my favorite, alchemizing it into right-wing violence, which is the attempt here. And it's unseemly, as is all of the celebrating of his death.
It's ghoulish.
I mean, we should have seen this coming after the Mangione celebrating, right?
They're all doubling down now, which is really both unsurprising and yet still shocking, because that's where we are now as a society, where people are not afraid to tell you, I am happy this person was murdered because I did not agree with his views.
Well, and they're invariably somebody who actually hasn't engaged with his views. Or took a very clipped or fabricated quote and turned it into their whole idea of him. And some of these people are in media, Karen Attiah, taking fabricated quotes and using them. I do want to point out that it's been a week plus. In that time, follow-on violence or arrests have been the wacko in the crowd who was arrested for pretending to be the shooter so that the shooter could escape. 2 arrests on campus, or 1 arrest in Texas Tech for assault on people who were mourning Charlie Kirk. 1 arrest for a vandalism charge in Arizona for a guy who trampled a memorial. And then the 2 guys who tried to bomb a Fox News truck in Utah. So if you're keeping score, the left is batting 1,000 on the arrests since this terrible event, while the media tells us that the right is the foreboding force. And I just, you're welcome to be concerned. I am concerned about young people who are very emotional about this. And I want them to be steered in the way that Charlie would have reacted, right? But it's this is a very tough thing. You're allowed to be concerned about that. You're not allowed to make up new facts or ignore that the left has been engaged in these various arrestable offenses. Well, we haven't. They've been having candlelight vigils and praying.
Across the world. It's a very heavy burden for people on the right or for conservatives in this particular situation, because the mainstream narrative is going to be, well, this happens on both sides, and they'll talk about what happened in Minnesota, for example. And the burden is on you to actually remember the very specific incidents that you just mentioned. Well, what about this, and this? Try to match that. And again, it's not like we're keeping score per se, but the fact is there is an alarming incidence of this kind of violent response to political adversaries or opponents on one side more than the other. That I think that has to be an undeniable fact. And there are polls that have come out, Rutgers University, the Contagion poll, a number of others that show that for young people on the left, violence, it can be justified. For people who you think that you don't like, you don't agree with, you think are a threat to the democracy or the republic, and that includes taking down President Trump. That political violence is an answer. That is insane.
Yeah, and the numbers are not encouraging, and it is tricky to do this. Like, well, this one was motivated by this and this, but it is so frustrating. For instance, the congressional baseball shooting is a great example. That happened 2 blocks from my house, a fact that I did not mention on air because of the security concerns involved with the fact that a bunch of people had just been attempted murdered 2 blocks from my house for their beliefs that are shared with me, right? In that case, this was a Bernie bro, liberal activist who had a list of conservatives he wanted to kill, who stalked the congressional baseball team's practice area and lived in a van in my neighborhood for a month to plan this massacre. Thank God he could not shoot. To plan this massacre, checked with arriving players to make sure that the people he was shooting were Republicans. By the way, do you know the congressman he asked that question of?
Who was it?
Ron DeSantis.
Oh.
Yep. 2017. He checks that they're Republicans before he starts shooting them. He shoots them. Scalise's still in the hospital when the media moves on.
Yeah.
But before it moved on, I was on CNN at the time. I was on 2 panels in 36 hours after this attempted mass murder of an entire caucus of congressmen. One panel was about how Trump's rhetoric was to blame.
Yeah.
The second panel was at the congressional baseball game where all the people who had just almost been murdered were playing. And they had a live shot at the congressional baseball game. And they come to us and the topic is Mike Pence hired a lawyer. Because the topic was Russiagate. The topic was not the attempted mass murder by a liberal activist.
Russiagate, too. I mean, it's like layers upon layers. You can see how people lose their minds over something like this.
So that's frustrating to me.
Yeah.
It's frustrating to me. And our friend, Michael Moynihan, I think has made, I don't know if he's written it, but he should, made a very elegant argument about how you don't actually have to get into this murder versus this murder, this act versus this act, and how they're categories. A lot of the data on this is very ideologically driven and very bad. If you dig into the numbers, only one side institutionally rewards and valorizes literal domestic terrorists who are convicted and served time, sometimes murderers, and gives them plum jobs in the most important, arguably, institution to the left, and that is academia. They are college professors, and they're not even rare. They're all over the place. They are unrepentant domestic terrorists who have tried to kill or successfully killed people because they disagree with them on politics and because they support violent radical revolution in this country. And America's colleges are like, please come on down and get your tenure. Bernadine Dorn, Bill Ayers, Kathy Boudin, how do you say their last name? Angela Davis. Like, they're all over the place.
Boudin.
Chessa's mom.
Yes.
These people have all at one point been engaged or convicted or accessory to attempted and successful murders. So that's why I think maybe the young people on the left get the message that this is okay.
That this is okay. That's exactly right. And it's thoroughly depressing because, you're spending, I don't know, $60,000, $80,000 a year to send your kid to be basically radicalized if they happen to tune in and listen to their professors and the ones who tell them they get extra credit if they, whatever, take part in, in an encampment. Do you want to talk about there's a lot of fallout, obviously, from the people who are celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk, and the narrative has now become Republicans, are suddenly anti-free speech because they're outing people losing their jobs. Matthew Dowd, as an analyst at MSNBC, for saying basically Kirk had it coming because his hateful words and leads to hateful actions. And so there you go. But my only thought on this, and Eliana Johnson at the Free Beacon has a very good editorial op-ed for us on this, which is that they all deserve to be fired. Usually you're working for a place that has a policy that is, if you advocate for violence or murder, that is probably not a good idea. If you don't, and you feel perfectly fine having a person in your office who has these very dark, bloodthirsty thoughts, I guess that's on you and that's on your company.
Yeah.
But I just wouldn't be surprised. And it's like they're daring them. But again, to go back to your previous point, it's just the sheer glee that's out there, and it being able to express all this on social media does not help.
Yeah, I think there is a part of this where the left must, but I don't think will, come to grips with the fact that there is a significant portion of its base that is pro-murder.
Yeah.
Whether it's Mangione's murder of Brian Thompson, who was a father of two and a healthcare executive for having a job. By the way, these aren't just political assassinations of politicians.
Yeah.
These are political assassinations of a healthcare CEO and a pundit.
Yeah.
And a young woman, I think her name is Brianna Lyman. She was on CNN the other day on Philip's show saying, hey, just FYI, there are 3 investigations / court cases going on right now for political assassinations in this country. They are Ryan Rouse in Florida, who tried to assassinate Trump. They are Luigi Mangione, political assassination of Brian Thompson. And 3, this guy, political assassination of Charlie Kirk. They're all from the left.
Yeah.
Like that is a pertinent fact.
Right.
That is a pertinent fact. Nero Tandon laughed at her for being concerned about that.
It's gross.
Look, I think, I wrote a whole book about how cancel culture is bad and that we should not adopt these tactics. And I continue to have those beliefs. It was written before cancel culture even had a name. Cancel culture is the systematic, digging up and ruining of people over formerly normal opinions and political actions.
Perhaps like perhaps like the view of having a traditional view of marriage between man and woman.
Yeah, that's what took Brendan Ike down, right? He made a small donation in support of traditional marriage in California, and he was ousted in 2014 from the technology company he founded. And that was a watershed moment for me. I was like, what is happening here? So I think a useful rubric might be, if you could have been fired for something pre-cancel culture, before it existed, perhaps it's just a normal thing people get fired for, right? Because being against cancel culture doesn't mean that an employer can have no bar. I would argue that bar should be very high. We don't want it to be, as it was during the 2020 insanity, a man in an electric company truck putting an OK sign out his window in traffic, and someone deeming that poor Latino employer white supremacist because of it, right? That's a
people lost their jobs over stupid.
It's a real thing.
Well, things like this. It was insane.
That's a cancel culture situation, as are bad tweets from when you were 16, as are offensive jokes, most of which I think are good. Like I'm fine with it. Like this stuff where you're digging up things from the past and all that. I put this to you. If you were a local pediatrician in 1981 and you walked around your town putting flyers on telephone poles saying Hinckley should have shot better, do you think you would still have your job?
Yeah, right. Or that you deserve it. That you have a right to keep your job. It's the same thing. I think you're hinting at the doctor the nurse was a whistleblower who said that the doctor was like, oh, I'm glad that Charlie Kirk had it coming, and essentially that, he wouldn't treat Charlie Kirk. And so, I mean, hypothetically, if he happened to be working at that emergency room, near Utah Valley University, what would he really do? I mean, is it okay that he is a doctor? What about people who espouse his views? Are you not going to care for them? Again, we're not talking about a handful of people. Half the country voted one way.
I know. And it was a lot of people expressing this, right? Yeah. And I think there's also a emotional comportment issue here. And I know that social media encourages you to just go on and barf everything you think, but you should not be broadcasting your innermost, most vile thoughts.
Yeah.
And look, we are a fallen people. We are all sinners. We're all going to have bad thoughts. The idea that a person in a place of public trust who is a healthcare worker or a teacher or, God forbid, a pastor in some of these cases, thinks the thought, tapes the thought, pushes publish on the thought.
Yeah.
That gives me concerns about being around that person.
Yeah.
At all.
Right.
And I've been for I would say the last 10 years, I've been a little careful about, I don't use my public name, with my associations with my kids' activities, with school.
You don't know, especially in your
position. With healthcare providers. Yeah. I'm like, you don't need to know that because I don't know. Now, some people would say that's paranoid. Doesn't feel that paranoid this week.
No.
Doesn't.
No.
I do think there is a line, and for me, the logical line is advocacy of murder and violence is a fireable offense. Like if you're putting that on somewhere in public. Being a jerk about Charlie Kirk is not a fireable offense most of the time. No. Just saying, I didn't agree with this guy, or he held bad views, or even using names for him. Yeah. Even if you're wrong and misguided, I don't necessarily think that those should get you canned, right?
Yeah. No.
Especially if you're having an intemperate moment. Now, I understand the argument from many on the right who will say, you are a CUCK because they're just going to keep coming after us and you're not making them play by their rules. And I totally understand the temptation. I just think that there is a line to be drawn here. And if you think I'm a CUCK now, wait till we get to the Kimmel conversation.
Yeah, I know. All of a sudden people are, wait, don't turn us off yet. Wait, hold on. I will say this quickly. It's that old saying, if you have nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. And funny enough, I remember this from watching many years ago after Senator Ted Kennedy died. Yeah. My old boss, Bill Kristol, this is funny, people get a kick out of this, was on maybe Meet the Press or one of the other Sunday shows. And everyone's going around the table and they're gushing about, the lion of the Senate and the whole deal. Yeah. And it got to Bill at the time. And he said, well, frankly, I obviously had a different opinion of him. But as they say, if you have nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. And people were so outraged. How could you not say this about the guy who murdered a woman, in a car?
Yeah.
Okay. So
no, that's the correct take on Kennedy.
I didn't. I mean, people, I think I think the understanding should be that we should be all outraged. I didn't feel like I had to go out of my way to tweet about this because I think it should just be known that this is a terrible thing.
Bare minimum that of the thing, I don't expect society to be unanimous about almost anything. Right. But one of the things we should be able to count on is that most people, overwhelmingly most people, believe that killing people for their political differences with you is not okay. Yeah. Right? Yeah. One more thing about the scummy responses, back off the widow. Back off the widow, you disgusting people. She gives this stunning speech, eulogy. Yeah, where she is holding it together. She is obviously a woman of fierce faith. She says incredibly magnanimous and beautiful things like, I don't understand this, but God does. Our God is so good. In the wake of this horrific event, days after it, she is stunning in every way. She vows to continue the work that he has done. Yeah. As she should. They built it together, right? She's no shrinking violet. She's not the handmaid that the left wants her to be. Yep. She believes things. She's a real person.
She's not advocating for violence, by the way, and saying that, this is a justified expression.
No, she's not. And yet people were like, oh, how quickly the grieving widow becomes an advocate. Oh, an advocate for the cause that her husband died doing? That one? Yeah. Because that's exactly what she should do. It's exactly what she should do. She's doing a great job. I will be on, she may never know who I am. I have never met Erica Kirk, but I will be on full-time widow defense whenever needed for the next 3 years. If anyone crosses her, I'm going to put an alert on Erica Kirk's name so I know, because she's going to do a fantastic job. I already feel great about her, but it is a very, very hard job she has to do. Yeah. And let her do it the way she wants to. Okay, so there's that. Let's talk about Kimmel.
Really quickly, Mary Katharine, what are your thoughts on this? A good thing, bad thing, or good thing for the wrong reason?
I think I'm in the third one.
I know. I just threw a softball at you.
Yeah. So here's the deal. Jimmy Kimmel, he had this to say in his monologue the other day.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. In between the finger pointing, there was grieving. On Friday, the White House flew the flags at half staff, which got some criticism. But on a human level, you can see how hard the president is taking this.
My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks? They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House, which is something they've been trying to get, as you know, for about 150 years. And it's going to be a beauty.
Yes. He's at the fourth stage of grief, construction. Demolition, construction. This is not how an adult grieves the murder of someone he called a friend. This is how a 4-year-old mourns a goldfish.
Okay, well, the second part of that segment is a goof on Trump's grieving.
Yeah.
Which, like, honestly, fine. Like that's a joke.
For a goldfish, right? Yeah.
The first part is just an assertion. And the assertion is that the right and MAGA is desperately trying to make the shooter, quote, anyone but one of them. Mm-hmm. Implying the vast left-wing conspiracy that this guy was some right-leaning groyper, mm-hmm. which he was not. And by the way, shout out to Will Stancil, a left-leaning pundit, for being on Blue Sky and trying to correct everyone and just getting reamed for it. Also, special mention for Ezra Klein, who is one of the only liberals who is going above and beyond to say, your speech is welcome.
Yeah. No,
your speech is welcome.
He took a lot of heat for that.
Yeah. Okay, so Kimmel says this. The FCC head, Brendan Carr, goes on Benny Johnson's show and I think various other venues, suggests, as he has aggressively at times, and Trump has, that their license, ABC's license, could be in danger over its inability to get its house in order, right? Now, ABC has a broadcast license. That is something that the FCC has regulatory power over. I don't think it should.
Right. But it just is. And that's all.
But it does.
Right. Okay.
So Brendan Carr says this, and he's on Benny Johnson's show. And then I think all of 6 hours later, mm-hmm. two sets of affiliates. First, Nexstar, which owns locally owned and operated television stations that carry ABC. So mm-hmm. Your local news ABC affiliate is owned by Nexstar. Mm-hmm. Nexstar says, we're going to preempt Kimmel because we're ticked off about this thing he said. Sinclair Group, also an affiliate owner, joins in. Sinclair specifically has conservative management.
Yes.
Right? They're a conservative owner-operator group. In the wake of that, ABC Disney, parent company, mm-hmm. much further left than Sinclair or Nexstar, mm-hmm. says, oh, well, we're pulling in, period.
Yeah.
So the question is whether those groups were doing that organically and independently, mm-hmm. or whether ABC and those groups were responding to pressure from the government. And here's the thing, that is the question, but it doesn't really matter because Carr's statements and the timeline make it impossible to argue, basically, that the government had nothing to do with this. And the government should have nothing to do with this. I don't care how good it feels. This is jawboning. Mm-hmm. It's the thing that we were mad at the Biden administration for doing during COVID. Yeah. And even if he sort of technically has the right to do this with the broadcast, no. Kimmel was circling the drain anyway. And this is the strategic point, which is separate from the moral point. I think this is bad and they shouldn't use their power this way. The strategic point is that y'all done made Jimmy Kimmel a free speech martyr instead of a loser late night host who lost his job organically.
That's right. A total cause celeb. It's been a long time since I found Jimmy Kimmel funny.
Long time.
I remember him on The Man Show with Adam Carolla, right? Yeah. Great stuff.
By the way, can we just marvel at the fact that Jimmy Kimmel, and I think this is one of the reasons he went so far loser left, he wasn't canceled? Of all the people who could be canceled for sexism and racism, the blackface guy from The Man Show never got it?
Yeah, blackface to be Karl Malone.
Yeah, you got out of Me Too and the race revolution?
Yeah.
Wow.
But this is it now. So, you know, I see the clips every morning through Grabian, which is a transcript service, and I watch them, and it's just like, the jokes are either tired or they're in poor, for me personally, poor taste, or in this case, wrong. And so I saw what happened.
Well, this wasn't even a joke; it's just an assertion.
It's this. That's the problem, and it was a statement made on Monday, and then as we learned more. Already by that point, by the way, when Jimmy Kimmel says this, it had been understood, I think, that this assassin is not from the right. And then it became much more apparent on Tuesday.
Yeah.
And then he goes on to show on Tuesday and then doubles down and then continues to make this thing. And the audience is yucking it up. This is very bad. I mean, this is you're just spreading disinformation. Now, he can try to parse what he says and say, I didn't mean it like this. It was misinterpreted. What I meant was, I was really focusing on Trump's behavior about this. But the fact is, you can see how people take it. It's obviously how I took it for him to think
I'm
that
not even
this
sure
guy
you can see it
MAGA.
different ways. Dylan Byers was like, watch this tape and still allege that this is what he's saying. And I'm like, the tape just literally says that.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
You guys are trying so hard.
So hard.
However, his dumb speech should have probably been punished.
Yeah.
They could have pulled him for a bit.
Issue an apology.
Issue an apology. Apparently, and this is why it's dumb to have anything to do with it as the administration. Yeah. Apparently, they had asked him to retract or apologize, and they were having a fight with him about it. That's some of the reporting.
Yeah.
And if he had refused to do so, like, they probably would have fired him.
Yeah.
And the affiliate groups, understandably, have more conservative areas they're serving.
Yeah.
More conservative viewers. They're not able to sell this schlocky, terrible liberal late night anymore.
You're insulting half the country. You're losing half of your potential audience because you want to lean in on this sort of stuff.
Yeah. And I think, like, look, unfortunately, was it last term, I believe, and we talked about at the time, we are consistent on the speech.
Yeah.
We talked about the Murphy versus Missouri free speech case, which was about the federal government jawboning Facebook and other social media to punish private citizens and pull their posts and their authorizations and their memberships and whatnot. And I will say, slight difference, that the FCC's 1934 authorization gives it power over broadcast organizations that Biden's administration did not have any legal authorization for over Facebook. Right. However, I think on principle, all of this is bad.
Yeah.
So they go after these posts. It makes it all the way to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court decided 6-3 with 3 conservatives dissenting that the folks who brought that suit or that complaint had no standing because they couldn't demonstrate a clear enough link between the administration like straight up just telling Facebook, take these people's stuff down and their damages, essentially. And I just want to read this from Alito's dissent. Hines in this sentence is the woman who had her stuff taken down. In Alito's view, Hines, therefore, has shown the kind of past and threatened future injuries attributable to government officials that should allow her lawsuit to go forward and permit the justices to address the First Amendment question at the center of the case. In quotes, the court, however, shirks that duty and thus permits the successful campaign of coercion in this case to stand as an attractive model for future officials who want to control what the people say, hear, and think. Carr, who I think is more well-read on Supreme Court precedent than Trump, probably knows that.
Yeah.
And knows that given that, it will be hard to bring suit because Kimmel will have to prove standing in a way that is pretty extraordinary. I will say in another case that year, Vullo is the name, the NRA versus Vullo, the court cited 9-0 against jawboning, but that was a very specific, like a lady in charge of finances telling in her regulatory capacity banks and such to do such and such to the NRA. So that one was like a little bit more direct, but I worried about this Murphy versus Missouri thing when it happened. I was like, if you can't have standing here, where do you get standing?
Right. Well, I mean, the good news is, so this thing happened, and yes, it's turned Kimmel into some sort of a media martyr, cause celeb, but at least we know it's not going to be, the matter won't be made worse by Trump, posting a Truth Social on this. I'm sure he's not going to weigh in on the demise of his arch nemesis, Jimmy Kimmel, on a show that, as you mentioned, has dismal ratings. It came in second. It came in below Kimmel. I'm surprised that Jimmy Fallon is down at third, and these share numbers are also abysmal. I was looking this up the other day because I was on this panel, a media panel that, Johnny Carson at his height had like a 62 share. I think Milton Berle, and had it was something like a 96 share, which is insane. I mean, there's only so many channels to choose from.
No, the number of people who used to watch individual shows was crazy.
Yeah, like Who Shot JR or whatever. Yeah. Now it's a 2 share. And, and that will be amazing, for a network, for some networks. In any event, I imagine the situation is going to just only get worse in this situation.
It's not, he's not only going to celebrate it, I think as he probably already has, but he's going to name other targets like that. The thing about Trump is that, and like, again, I hate when the left just disappears all of their bad behavior,
right?
Because they're not mad that he's using the FCC. They're not mad that the FCC has this power or that it's being used. They're just mad that they're not the ones using it. They have argued for years that the FCC commissioner should have far more power.
Right.
And they have used other powers they don't have, as illustrated in Murphy versus Missouri, in really, really bad ways that censored people. And like, none of y'all cared then. No. None of y'all cared.
It's the authoritarian streak when they're going so hard against authoritarians. And it's the same thing with packing the Supreme Court, which, by the way, surprisingly, they're very quiet about right now, adding more justices for the next 4 years.
And like, I again am somewhat sympathetic to the argument of the right that says, look, if we unilaterally disarm and only we live by these rules and these regulations, like how do we get out of this cycle? But also, how do we get out of this cycle if everybody continues to ratchet?
Right.
And by the way, he would have been gone anyway because he's lame. He would have been off on his merry way organically. I also think for the wider media, and you're going to see this in very striking ways, the mainstream media is very used to designating who the proper victims are.
Yeah.
And Charlie Kirk was a victim that they were not comfortable with.
No, I'd like to bring up, by the way, Mary Katharine, I think it's Matt Gutman at ABC News, who was reading the transcripts, by the way, of the texts between the alleged assassin, and his lover. And he is so moved, he seemed, when he was telling his audience on ABC about, just the compassion and, for his lover, my love, I'm doing this for you. And, you can really see how
touching.
You could be really sympathetic to.
Where
was I? Yeah.
These people are people have sicko reactions to this stuff. So Charlie Kirk was not a victim that they were comfortable with.
No.
Jimmy Kimmel is very much a victim that they are comfortable with. And the crazy thing you're going to see, even though I don't think the FCC should have been involved in this, the crazy thing you're going to see is how much more Jimmy Kimmel's loss of a late night show for a couple of weeks, because apparently it's temporary, we'll see what happens, is so much more emotionally hard for them than the murder of a conservative on campus. And I asked this morning, Brian Stelter, who's always monitoring these situations, I was like, I know he talked about the murder of Charlie Kirk, obviously, but the other big, what should be a national news story about an attack on the press and free speech is the attempted bombing of a Fox News truck.
Yeah.
But that one didn't get a lot of attention.
No, particularly when they found out who the bomber suspects were.
Yes, I'd have to look up their names, but they were names that gave the press reason to believe that they weren't white Utah conservatives.
No, right. It still always amazes me how they can have this power to just, brush it under the rug and pretend it didn't happen.
I think
it kills them when it reaches that critical mass that people are talking about, that they have to address something, that they'd rather not.
By the way,
go ahead.
I'm looking for the names of those guys, and they're strategically left out of national news.
No, the Free Beacon covered it. I believe their last names are Nassim. I can
Nasir.
About that.
Adib and Ahmed Nasir. So I love how it's left out of the CNN story.
Yes.
Just perfect.
Mary Katharine, we need to get to the lightning round.
Oh, crap.
Okay.
We're so late.
Really quick.
There's just so much going on.
Okay. You brought up something that was totally up my alley, and I had forgotten about it already. That's how much time had passed, and we're going to go through this really quickly, so bear with us. Sydney Sweeney, what do you think about the ad? And I'm sure you put in your 2 cents, and what are your thoughts?
Love the ad. Sydney Sweeney. I didn't know she's actually a car gal. She actually does take care of cars.
Yeah, your listeners can't see, but I'm fanning myself.
No, love it. I love that chick.
I love meeting women who know a lot about something I know nothing about.
She is totally hot, right coded now. She doesn't give a damn that she's right coded. She's out there like, I'm going to make all this money selling jeans because I'm a hot chick in jeans. Yeah. And the uproar was insane. And then once again, the response was insane because, like they're doing with the bad responses to Charlie Kirk's murder, the mainstream media will be like, they're making up our dumb responses.
I was going to say,
we're not making them up. They're in video.
We have receipts, as they say. We can show you if you want to know how you reacted to this. It's so funny. I was not a big fan of Sydney Sweeney's. I'd seen White Lotus, and maybe I was just distracted by Anna Daddario.
Maybe so. They both were in bathing suits that whole dang
curvaceous
show. So.
And then I see this, and I'm like, wow. And I'll tell you what, because she's what you would call an unconventional beauty, right? Mm-hmm. And I love the embrace of curves, by the way. I'm all about curves. That's great. I think it's great. And also, voice. What a great voice. She knows what she's doing. I don't want to say, is that vocal fry? Would you call it vocal fry? That's a little bit.
I don't think it's
vocal fry
per
is,
se.
No, that's more negative. It just has this sort of lingering effect. The way she talks, it's sort of like a little bit lazy in a good way.
Yes. Yeah.
I will, and so I'm all for it. I love the ads, really well done. Bravo to what's the ad? What's the gene?
American Eagle.
Oh, American Eagle. Sorry, I don't even know what the genes are. Okay,
they're selling quite well. So
I have one huge complaint, which is she then appeared on the cover of Wall Street Journal magazine, the magazine. Huge disappointment.
Really?
Yeah, I mean in terms of the photos.
Yeah.
Just like it was very artsy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Didn't lean into
no. I did it. Okay.
Okay. What else we got?
Coldplay. What is your take now? But here's the great thing. We have, like a little bit of time and distance to look back now. And what is your feeling now about the whole thing? Should they have been hounded like this, Mary Kath?
So the problem with social media and with cancel culture in general, and it matters even with really bad actors, is that we can't control proportionality.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. So these people did a bad thing.
Yeah.
Right? And by the way, if they had just played it off, only their significant others would have known. Mm-hmm. If they had just been like,
right.
each other, nobody would have known.
Yeah.
Because Chris wouldn't have been able to say what is happening there. By the way, very bold for him to just call it out.
He did. By the way, but the kiss cam will linger until enough pressure is put on you and the other person to kiss.
Right. And again, I'm just saying, once you're caught, and I know it's hard in that situation, well, I don't know from experience, but like I can imagine it's hard. You just got to play it off. You got to play it cool, and then you won't be
a little peck on the cheek would the camera go away if you just kissed.
But then you won't be a public
Yeah.
issue. You'll just be the private issue, because they'll eventually see the video. Right. They might be told about it, but it won't be a national news story or an international news story. I thought the Gwyneth Paltrow ad for the cheating guy's company, Astronomer, was very, very clever. And I appreciated that nimbleness, but I'm not sure so much heat should have been put on them, even though they were doing a bad thing.
Right. Okay.
Clearly.
So here's my take. They were separated already, or he was separated or whatever, right? So it's not like they were in loving relationships ostensibly or seemingly for the other,
if we believe that story.
If we believe, okay, well, I'm gonna believe it for the sake of this segment. So it's not gonna be like a shock that he was living this double life. If they're separated, I mean, a lot of people, I guess, when you're separated, you get some leeway, I guess, and say, I'm going to start seeing people before it's actually, the divorce is finalized. I think what made things worse was, in particular, her reaction. Yeah. Where she was mortified, and I think she went down.
She bent.
Yes, and not in a good way. You know, she just hiding, and he's trying to play it off, but it was totally her reaction that gave away something was wrong here. But it made you think it was much worse than it was bad. But it was okay. You're right. If they played it off, only the family would be hurting right now if it's
hurting privately.
Yeah,
wasn't she also an employee of his, which is a little
they work together.
That's
okay.
I guess he's the CEO, so he doesn't have to disclose it to anyone.
Wants,
All right, what else we got?
Okay, I don't know, we're running out of time over here.
It's okay. Thank you.
Have you been around the city with the National Guard presence at the time?
Yes, I had a very funny incident. Actually, I have tape of this, so we can add it here. That is the video that I took inside a car.
Okay.
My experience was I came out of Union Station. It is lovely. It's like it was 20 years ago, where you don't have to worry about people spitting at you or yelling at you or something worse. It's clean. You come out of Union Station. I got in my Uber, and as the Uber is pulling out, I see the MCATs and the National Guard standing outside there, and they're calm, they're kind, they're not bothering nobody. And in front of them is this huge line of liberal protesters yelling and banging drums, holding up signs about the fascists standing behind them. And I was like, the fascists aren't fascisting so good.
Yeah.
And look, I have concerns about other cities where he's going to try to do this because he has special powers in a federal district in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
He does not have those same powers for day-to-day crime in Chicago or L.A. He can do things like protect federal law enforcement, protect federal buildings. That's all legit. But like, you're up against the thing where people look around and they go like, I don't know, I feel like 0 murders in a week is better than 3 or 4.
That's the thing. And it pains the other side to have to say that crime is down. I remember one particular pundit saying, well, it's Trump's problem now because of, he owns it now. And, these things are very hard to actually, they don't know what they're doing. So when crime doesn't go down, we can all blame the crime on the president now. And of course, crime did go down. I mean, there was no denying that. Even DC Mayor Muriel Bowser had to say, it's made a huge difference. And then people were so frustrated by that, they're angry at her. And they're also pushing back by saying, well, it's only down because of their presence. It's like, discouraging them from, it's this thing called deterrence.
Yeah. Are you saying law enforcement presence doesn't create more crime, which is the crazy thing they were telling us? It creates less crime.
Right, exactly.
No, I think it's largely good, and he has the authority for it here. Right. And I think Trump's great utility is often in embarrassing people and doing the thing they should have been doing already.
Yeah.
And he solves problems quickly, the border being one, crime in DC being another. And the problem with him is that he wants to solve a problem and he wants to take the quickest line to doing that. And he has no regard for whether he has the powers to do that. Yeah. Now, other people around him have more regard and more interest and more knowledge about that. But he doesn't know or care. He just wants to solve the problem. By the way, that's what he was doing with Jimmy Kimmel, where he wants credit for taking down Jimmy Kimmel. He doesn't know or care that he shouldn't be the guy doing.
I will say this also, Mary Catherine. So I was in Georgetown meeting with friends and sitting out, side in a little sidewalk cafe. There are still people who are out there who are, roaming the streets who are disturbed and they're yelling at nobody. One person in particular had come up to the cafe area outside.
And that man's name was James Carville.
And his name was James, God's right. Oh, crazy, he said. And started berating no one in particular, but obviously making people uncomfortable. Management at the restaurant, it's 2 restaurants joined, so I can't tell who it was, must have called for help in the event that it escalated. And customers are trying to pretend that, this person is not yelling at all of them and hoping that it doesn't escalate. I would say within 2 minutes, a squad car, a DC Metro Police squad car showed up to talk to the person. And I don't know if they had the person in the car, but definitely to engage this person of what's going on, what are you doing, and knowing that the person is not well. Not the National Guard. And this is my point, which is that when you have the presence in other places and crime is being discouraged in other places, it allows the police to actually attend to these things quicker.
Yes.
I mean, that's the good thing.
Well, okay. I think a lot of residents told Muriel Bowser, we kind of like going to Navy Yard and not getting mugged.
Right, secretly. Good. Don't tell anybody, but I'm glad that my car isn't. I'm not getting carjacked. And the worst thing about the left response was saying, "Hey, it's a city. These things away. It's a city. It's going to happen."
Well, and I just want to mention her name since she's been a huge story too. Right before Charlie Kirk is the stabbing of 23-year-old Ukrainian refugee Irina Zarutska.
Yeah.
Same storyline where it's like, if you want people to be riding public transit and enjoying city life and walkable cities and all the things that libs want all of us to do all the time, there is a social compact where you have to give them some reasonable expectation of safety. Yeah. And if in the event that these terrible things happen on camera, your response is to say, let's not demonize anyone who might have committed this crime.
Right.
Or to gaslight people about the fact that it is dangerous to be among disturbed people.
Yeah.
That's going to reflect badly on you and your city and your governance. And whether that matters in 2026 is a whole nother issue. But just watching them react to the issue of crime is very discouraging for normal people who don't like crime.
And doing a total 180 in which now suddenly they're all against cameras. Surveillance cameras and body cams, because it's revealing things they don't want people to see, because it's going to be used by the right as this sort of galvanizing point in a fight against crime that is going down everywhere. Just ask this woman's family.
Yeah.
So
I wanted to get her into the discussion because that was another big story of the summer. And what was your last?
Okay, the last point
one?
here. Okay. Yes, we've reached the end. Cracker Barrel. Mary Katharine, looking back on it, and you're a fan and I'm a fan. How did you feel about the change and the change back? Do you think this was all a marketing ploy? Like, I will say, the International House of Pancakes, which pretended to toy around changing their acronym from IHOP to IHOB, International House of Burgers. Do you think Cracker Barrel really was going to change it and remove the old man from the logo?
So, I don't think this was a rope-a-dope. It would have been very clever if it were.
Okay. Give me to a trend.
The reason I don't think that is because they had already started redoing the interiors of several Cracker Barrels.
Right.
And
cleaner.
The logo was the least of the problems. This is the thing.
Good point.
Now, I will concede that Cracker Barrel was facing problems and needed to make shifts in order to fix their market share and to attract more people, maybe a younger demographic. I think there are other ways they should have done that, particularly just like getting food out faster, which is my main obstacle when I'm stopping with kids on a road trip, right? Like that's my concern there. But I like the food. I like the environment. One of the reasons I like the environment, and I believe Christine Rosen made this point on the commentary podcast, is that you take kids into a Cracker Barrel and there's so much to see.
Tchotchkes
And
everywhere.
They're so easily entertained and you get to enjoy your dinner, and there's games on the table.
Yeah. Old school games.
Yes. The cleaner version of Cracker Barrel took most of that away.
Oh.
And that was a terrible decision. Like, why am I can get chicken and dumplings many places.
Yeah.
But
it's
this
like
added,
sterilized in a bad way.
Right. I don't need to be in a modern coffee shop to eat my Cracker Barrel chicken and biscuits or whatever.
Right.
And so I think they were going in on this.
Right.
And then the logo made people angry and then drew attention to everything.
Yes.
Like, it was just a bad idea. And I don't think it was woke per se. I think the corporation does woke things because they all got roped into that in 2020 through 2023. I don't think it was woke per se. What was woke about it was that people in C-suites are so out of touch with why people eat at Cracker Barrel that they thought, we should make them a Starbucks, but call it Cracker Barrel. And it's like, no, ma'am.
Bad ideas for people who have lost touch. I think about the marketing people at Anheuser-Busch when they did the whole Bud Light thing, which was obviously very woke, or removing the Indian, the Native American from Land O'Lakes butter. Who was,
Leave them alone.
She was great. I don't know, Aunt Jemima, she got her new hair. So rather than look like something from, I don't know, the 40s or 50s, now she looks like she's in the 70s, the 1970s. I'm all for that. Cracker Barrel, I will say, so I agree with you 100%. Also, the problem for me is the nearest Cracker Barrel is like 17 miles away in Sterling. But
it's road trip food.
It's road trip. But I had been to a Cracker Barrel in Franklin, Kentucky. I know I sound like Dr. Livingston here. Yes, the local tribe of wide girth. But I want to say that I really enjoyed having, and I had to double check to make sure it's still on the menu. It is, quote unquote, Grandpa's Country Fried Breakfast. And let me just say this, I don't think Grandpa would survive that breakfast.
Well, we can keep testing that notion now that Cracker Barrel has turned the right direction. Okay, I have one last suggestion before we end.
Yeah.
And that is, and this is a real vibe shift.
Okay.
Sydney Sweeney as the Land O'Lakes girl?
Oh, on so many levels, Mary Katharine, that's great and wrong.
I should be canceled for this. Brendan Carr is going to come after me. All right, here we go.
Okay.
We're done, folks, for today.
Listen, yes, just for today. Don't worry, we're coming back, but that's going to have to wrap up this latest episode of Getting Hammered, your favorite quarterly podcast. Remember, you can subscribe to Mary Katharine Ham's Substack for updates, and you can still follow me on Twitter at Victorino Mattis. I want to thank our producer, Christian, for helping put this show together. And please do stay tuned for our next episode, which I believe is the holiday gift giving guide.
It might be. We'll keep in touch, guys. I don't remember what I used to say at the end. It's been a while.
So long.
You can find me at MKHammer, at MKHammer Time on Instagram. Thanks for being with us. Thanks for getting hammered. Respond.